So we try, and I think generally always do, adhere to those guidelines. What happens with all the municipalities in the province is that there are occasions where the council is asked to assemble by either staff to provide, training, even if municipal affairs come in to provide training, or by an outside party that wishes to provide information. Now that gets stretched. That's how outside companies come in sometimes meeting with council. It's always termed an information session. You won't see that in the MGA. Municipal Affairs has condoned for many, many years the idea that MPs and MLAs may request an information session where they come to present information, usually after an election, to municipal councils. So it's routinely done with all the municipal councils that they come and they present information.
But nothing in the MGA enables that as a confidential process.
Because what you're doing is you're saying it's not a meeting, it's an information session. Well, an information session doesn't allow any decisions to be made, also doesn't allow council to call for a motion for a closed session, granting the confidentiality that would come from the MGA. So in that context, the information session is only confidential by mutual agreement of the parties. And in that case, I think it's important to clarify with Bernadette her expectation of confidentiality when she's arriving to have this discussion, which will not be taking place in a meeting of council and thereby not under the discretion of the MGA.
So what you seem to be saying is that contrary to what the understanding we have is that council can get together as a group for the purposes of sharing information, but because it's not a meeting, because it's, there's no order called, there's no motions to be taken, there's no records to be kept, then council can have a meeting
information
of
session.
7.
It is intended to receive information from an outside party.
Okay.
So if council gets together by themselves, then I think there's no way to construe that as anything other than a meeting, is my understanding. I mean, we could get legal opinion, but I don't think anyone has a legal opinion because it hasn't been challenged. So I would only use information sessions sparingly to receive information. Training is the main legitimate. Training is the perfect reason to have an information session. If municipal affairs comes in to do training for council, you're all assembled in this room. Clearly, it's not going to be open to the public. So in that case, you would understand it to be an information session. And then the definition gets extended. I think council has decided recently with a request from CERMAC not to extend those information session opportunities to private companies. I think that's an appropriate thing to do. You can always go into closed session to talk about confidential elements of a proposal. I emailed you guys in that regard this morning about a proposal that's going to be presented to the council at our next week's meeting. But that is distinct from what the MLA or MP is requesting in this case, which is that the meeting take place in an information session where she is coming to provide information to the council.
So my understanding from that, although I don't think you specified, oh no, you did say that any confidentiality, i.e. A permission to speak about the discussion, outside the discussion, would have to be by agreement by the participants, by the parties involved.
And one way that you could do that, if it's deemed necessary to do that, is the council could, in this open session, come to the determination that any discussions with our MP will be, and I would say specify MLA as well, because it's going to come up.
Information session
would be kept in confidence by the council.
Are information sessions necessarily confidential?
I don't think you would want to go that far.
Okay.
Because, for example, training is certainly not intended to be confidential. Like, you can go back and say to someone else, well, I learned this in training from municipal affairs. So I think what you should just say is that discussions with the MLA or MP will be kept in confidence and not specify information session in that. It's just a typo. But you don't have to make an actual motion, but that would be a way of providing some binding decision of council then, to Penny's point about it.
I would have a hard time abiding by that, because I've marked some of the questions that I would like answers to, and the content, the information strikes me as being anything that would be in the public purview. So I can't see any reason why the answers to these questions or clarification about some of the items in the mandate letter would be private or restricted.
If council made a motion that the meeting with the MP today is going to be confidential, is that enough to bind us to?
Yeah, I mean,
confidentiality?
You've all agreed to keep things in confidence when the town has
Okay.
deemed them to be confidential, so you would be bound by that.
Is there a hybrid solution available to us whereby, because I think a lot of us are having conversations about, you know, CERMAC and you know, the fishery minister's mandate letter. We're in a very unique situation with her being our MP and also the fisheries minister and also being
That's
in our
public
community.
information, though.
And so what I was wondering is, would it be acceptable to council to have a meeting, and in those moments of the meeting where the minister feels that there's information that needs to be confidential, that we ask her to specify, please regard this as confidential. And then that way we have a very clear idea of the distinction between her mandate letter, and my questions are also specific to her mandate letter. I don't have anything outside of it. And it's public information. And if she does want to share something, I feel very comfortable keeping that portion in confidence as member of council. But to have the entire meeting in town council with councillors and the mayor as a confidential session, I'm less comfortable with that, especially as we're talking about public information. I don't see a reason for it.
So I mean, my answer to that question would be, you absolutely can do that by mutual agreement of the parties. So the parties in this case being the individual members of council. So the only distinction there is that you're not, just to Penny's question about what is binding us, you're not bound by a decision of council. You're still yourselves able to say to Bernadette, yes, I will keep the requested parts in confidence. That's absolutely sufficient, but it's not binding.
If the mayor requested of the MP to point out and clarify information that she wants to remain confidential, then the individual councillors would either sit dutifully in their chair, listen to the answer, take it in under the understanding that it is going to be held confidential, or B, they can recuse themselves from the meeting, leave the room while that information is being provided to the other councillors. Is that what
I don't think so.
Saying?
I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that we agree here that any councillor who wants to participate in the meeting would do so under the modus operandi that a portion will be potentially in confidence as indicated by the minister, and we agree that up front, confirm that with the minister, and then nobody has to uncomfortably leave a meeting.
That's another solution too. Gets you to the same place.
Has she literally asked for this meeting to be kept in confidence?
Dylan's the person.
I mean, has she
staff
said, I'll come to this on condition? This meeting will be.
What was requested by her staff is that the meeting not take place in open session. That's not the same thing.
That's right.
As being in confidence.
Yes, I agree.
So I think that that's something that you could clarify with her. But obviously, there are things that she doesn't want to say in open session. Therefore, there must be some part of that she would consider to be confidential.
Well, see, I look at this thing about CERMAC like I don't have a bias one way or the other because I don't have any information. I mean, they have their criteria, and it just may not happen. So I'm not going to get my knickers in a knot about that, knowing there's a major market for protein, and a lot of that protein is going to be produced in the ocean because the ocean can no longer provide that traditional protein.